Hey guys, welcome back to Messy Truths, the podcast. We are back for episode 35, I believe. And this is Mar. I'm recording direct from Montreal.
Yo. This is your middle child, Nish from Kanakahage. And I'm going to pass it down south to our birthday sister.
Yes. Well, it's not my birthday yet. It's next week,
we're
getting there. Mm-hmm. But we've lost track of the number of shows more. Is that what I'm hearing? Episode 35? 36?
I think it's 35. 35. Yeah.
I think it's 35 too.
We need to commemorate our 1 year anniversary at some point. Do we even know when we started? We got to figure that out.
Yeah, wait.
Wait, before we get into our topic, I just want to address, because, you know, we talked about the Buffalo shooting briefly last week.
Yeah.
Now we have another school shooting.
Yeah.
And, America's out of control, bro. I don't care what anybody says. At the end of the day, the common denominator in all of these mass tragedies are fucking guns, bro. Guns. These people wouldn't be able to do what they do if they did not have access to guns. Point blank, period. So,
and properly addressing mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, do it all. But at the same time, maybe we should just limit the access of guns while we're addressing mental health. No? Like, the fuck?
Yeah. I always find it fascinating, some of these southern U.S. states that, they're all about banning books, which is near and dear to my heart. Right. We're all about banning, abortion after a certain number of weeks. We're all about banning curriculum in schools related to how we teach history and race. But let the guns flow. No big deal.
Let's not ban a gun. God forbid.
No.
Well,
let's not address mental health or any of these other issues. Things that could probably be addressed if you read a book.
Right.
Yeah. But all that to say is that but I'm a teacher. Nobody sends their kids to school and coming out in the hospital or body bags. So to those parents, our hearts go out. Especially
and just to anybody, really. Yeah. Parents and, the families of those teachers who were killed in the process. Oh my God. Human life in general is it's really sad. Extremely sad.
I feel like we go through these cycles where I think it was a few years ago where the guy was shot up the movie theater, and then there was another mall shooting, and then at that time we were like, we're not safe. We're not safe in a movie theater. We're not safe in a mall. And then we do this all over again. It's like a cycle. And then we kind of get calm and settle down, and we're like, okay, life is okay again. And then boom, here we go again. I mean, I had such a hard time this morning sending my kids to school.
Yeah.
Not for nothing.
Yeah, of course.
But the thing is, what we don't realize is that these school shootings actually happen more often than we realize. They're just not reported. Yeah. So and then their manifestos and their access. And let's not even get into the interesting characterization of these shooters, how they characterize them versus if they were racialized, right? So, but at the end of the day, I feel you as a parent, Oz, and as a teacher, I'm just like, I thought about this when we had our own version of a school shooting at Dawson in 2006 in
Dawson
Montreal.
College,
and I was like, I didn't sign up to be a teacher to die for my kids. Like, I love y'all. Don't get it twisted. But if we go into lockdown and you outside, you better hide, because I ain't letting you in. Period.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, I know that's not our topic today, but I just wanted to talk about it because it's too much, important. Guys. It's too much.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of too much, as I'm on medical leave, I think most folks know I teach religion, and I'm always very fascinated in people's religious experiences. Normally, when I'm on medical leave, I find one show that I obsess with, and I won't name the show because it could get me canceled. But this month, my obsessions have been watching... You gotta
name the show.
No, I can't. I'm not getting in trouble.
Why not?
I just know that I really love Claire Huxtable. That's all.
Oh, that's nothing. That's
Yeah,
nothing.
I love this show. I watch it on repeat when usually it's like old school Charm or that show, some show that I watch that or 227.
You like the shows from the 80s. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that,
But
even though he's creepy, a
recently,
creepy doctor.
yeah, I know. Also, let's not get in the fact that I'm always trying to ignore Quebec politics. And yesterday, the passing of Bill 96, which anybody from Quebec understands, that's
Oh,
just some
anyway.
language imprisonment. But my obsession for a long time, because I teach religion, is cults. And I just want to start off by saying cult, the word gets a bad rap. The actual definition of a cult is when it's a group of people that's smaller than a million. So in Canada, for example, if a religion is a true religion, if it has a million believers, anything
Mm.
below that number is a cult.
Hmm.
And but
Really?
yeah, but now cult has taken on a whole new definition. And it's like when a small group of people have admiration for a charismatic leader. But let's not get it twisted, folks. Anything can become a cult, right? Exercising too much, uh, dedicating yourself like obsessively, giving things up for things. This can all turn into a cult.
Listening to the Messy Truths podcast,
That can be
to
a
all of
cult.
our truth seekers out there.
So I watch a lot of shows about cults because I'm fascinated to say, like, what happens? Like, where do we go from we are the world, we love people to shit,
Mm-hmm.
shit. So I have some top 10 cults that I've been watching on the regular.
Top
Some,
10 cults.
yeah, some I didn't even know about. So what do y'all think about cults? I don't really think they're bad. It's the cult that gives the bad name, right? Like,
Okay, so I have a confession. There was a spin instructor. I think I told you guys about her. When I first got like introduced to spin, and it wasn't my thing. And now I'm a Peloton, you know, avid Peloton user. But
cult?
bef- see, that might be a cult. That right there might be a cult. But I was gonna say there was a spin instructor that I used to go to this gym called Equinox, really nice gym. And there was a spin instructor, and I used to go before I would go to work. And when I tell you, when I got on that bike and she spoke to me, she not only gave me direction on that bike, she gave me direction in life, guys. I'm not lying. I would sit there, I would laugh with her, I would cry with her. I would go to work refreshed, fueled, full of energy. And I remember thinking, if this woman started a religion, I would convert. I would convert because she spoke to my soul in a different way. When I tell you, I would literally sit there, tears streaming down my face as I'm pedaling and sweating so hard on this bike. But I felt something inside of me from this one spin
That's okay.
instructor. So
Because
I get it.
cults have other words. That's what I'm saying. We hear cult, we think of all these other crazy things, but other words for cults are clique, ritual, sect. So what's the difference? Like the three of us could be a cult, worshiping each other. Like you understand? So yeah, and so Mark,
Mm-hmm.
just to follow that up, it not only does a cult become a religion when it's recognized for its followers, but also when it has a recognized recognition from the state or the province that it's in. That's
Mm.
what that's why I think the word cult gets a bad rap. But I
Yeah.
actually really like following cults or not following them or researching them because I'm always interested on where does it go wrong, right?
Mhm.
They
Mm.
all start out
There's a
cool.
turning point, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
And the little nerd in me gets like,
really
ooh.
excited about the psychology of it all.
Yeah, and these ones aren't good though.
Some months back, I like to tape movies, documentaries, all kinds of stuff, and check them out when I have the time. And there was a movie that I watched that was based on a group from Philadelphia. It was called, I don't remember the name of the documentary. I think it might be something about let the fire burn, and it was about a group, a religious group called Move. and it was headed up by an African American leader by the name of John Africa. And from the beginning of the documentary, what we really see, I think it was like his son is the one who is the main person in the documentary who's giving like a full history of this organization. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, it really was a cult, because there's this charismatic leader who's like trying to guide members of his community. And it ended in tragedy. Like I think they were squatting in a home that had been abandoned in a part of Philadelphia, that everyone was like freaking out and wondering like, why are these people here, kind of thing. And to me, I looked at it and I thought, they weren't really bothering anybody. Like, it, if you're harming children, that's one thing. If the children are starving and they're going,
Yeah.
your children are going hungry and they're being abused, that is one thing. But they were really just like caring for each other. And, of course, the city and the state basically intervened. And anyway, like I said, it ended in tragedy. But the thing that what made me think about this is the fact that, like you were saying, Nisha, sometimes they're not necessarily a bad thing. They could be
No.
just smaller communities that are finding support from one another. And I felt like in that particular case, that was a perfect example. Live and let live, leave people alone. If you want to have a community that supports one another, go ahead, do your thing, But I just kind of feel like, as long as
Cults
you're
get a
not
bad
hurting
rap.
anyone, yeah, as long as you're not hurting anyone, if you're not abusing another person, if you are not you're not an old man trying to marry a young child, or there's
Like
no
most
abuse
of
of
them.
kids, or just trying to control and abuse women, or
Right.
just anyone at all,
Like
any person.
NXIVM.
And
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
exactly. Actually, NXIVM is the most modern day cult that we have. And they were touched even Canada and the US. And there was some
Mm-hmm.
really famous actors, actresses from Buffy the Vampire who was in that cult, branding dudes' names and initials in your bottom. Like, come on, yo.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Ooh, they
that's
were
where I'm
doing
like,
that with every member.
the female members.
The
That's
female
Only
members,
the
like the
female
the
ones who
members.
were
female. Yeah.
female
The
members, were
one,
branding homeboy's name
and
into
it
their
was very
vaginal
cleverly
areas.
designed.
That's like
But it was a,
that's human trafficking and slavery type of branding.
But
That's
more
bad.
than that, they all had eating disorders because he kept
yeah,
telling them not to eat. He kept telling them to lose weight. And it wasn't only
What?
just him. It was his messaging was coming through the higher up female leaders, and there was a very kind of master slave
yeah.
kind of relationship between the top tier, cult members and the women entering into that scene. And that, I guess,
So,
Nisha,
so
it's
it's
really
like a
interesting.
hierarchy.
Yeah,
It was,
always.
yeah,
But it's
always.
always
Okay.
like that in cults.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you mentioned that something always goes wrong, because you're right. At the beginning, so they were really teaching, with
Life
Nexium
coaching.
especially,
Yeah.
life coaching and how to like access like areas of your mind that you wouldn't tap into in order to like, just even the whole, if you think about it, it's almost the same philosophy as like manifestation and visualization, and like reaching your maximum potential and tapping into your, you know
Inner self.
yours, right? So it's very appealing. So like when you think about coaching, and I think all of us have forayed into that, right? Like I definitely have a coach that I speak to, or that I a group of women actually that I connect with, a community, if you will, 3 or 4 times a week about self-development and
Yeah.
self-empowerment and all that. It's the same thing, but these people obviously paid, a good amount of money to get into these classes. And so a lot of them were already wealthy or came from the entertainment
Yeah.
industry. Um, and then once you're in, you're in, man. Once you're in, that's
You
when they
get
start,
branded.
right.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and funnily enough, a lot of people would say in my high school years I was in a cult. And I had two people who sort of like protected me in my cult life. But I wasn't in a cult. Well, I wouldn't consider it a cult. But when I was younger, so I don't know, most folks know that I'm Muslim. My dad is Muslim. And when I was younger, I joined the Nation of Islam. So for those folks who are listening who don't know the Nation of Islam, Nation of Islam is, most people would describe it as a black militant version of Islam under the leadership of Louis Farrakhan at the moment. But what really attracted me to the nation, to be honest, my cousin started the branch here in Montreal, and the Nation of Islam was almost like the Black Panthers 2.0. And my grandfather
Mm,
was in the Black Panthers. So when I was young, like 15, I had joined the Nation of Islam. I mean, I'm a very, pro my community. So for me, the Nation of Islam was perfect for my little 15-year-old mind. But I had a mom who was like always watching them, always watching them, always, always. Like my mom was like, "Oh, you want my daughter? Okay, well, I come with the package."
mm,
And, I was in the nation for many, many moons and doing good work. I loved it. I mean, I had, I wore a head covering. I mean, to me, they weren't incongruent with Islam. We did a lot of things, good things for the community. And I had my cousin, the same one who had like recruited me in, so to speak, into the nation. And I have photos of this. He called me up and I was in Toronto and he was like, "Yo, don't come to the mosque today." And I was like, "Well, I'm in Toronto anyway." Hey, no one's talking to you, watch. And he's like, "Don't come to the mosque today." And I was like, "Okay." And I found out there was like a fight between the believers in the mosque because we had found out that, so the way the nation works is they give you a minister per mosque,
right.
and that minister oversees your mosque. But I found out that minister had been sleeping with the young girls in the
Oh
mosque.
no, no,
Not the
Ooh.
young
no.
girls,
Oh
not the
no.
young girls, like the females of the mosque, the
But people who
sisters.
were not his wife.
Exactly. But
Okay.
the funny thing is, because everybody knew who my mom was, and if viewers, if you ever meet my mom, you'll understand. And they also knew my cousin. So I was like the female who was untouched. There was only a few of
Mm.
us. Like no one tried to groom me, no one talked to, because my mom was always there, like, nope, 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 no, she's not going there. No, she's not going out of state. Nope, 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 nope.
That's what I'm talking about.
And my mom, because my mom was like, It's down. We're down. You can go to the mosque. You can be part of the nation." She let me go to Chicago. I was at the Million Man March, some big epic Black movement events. But my cousin had to be there.
Mm.
It's my
Makes
family,
sense.
right? And my mom would go to all the nation events and she went up to the minister and she told me, she said, "Niche, that he's a man before he's a minister." I'll never forget when she told me that. And
Oh,
I
so
said,
she
"Why did you
knew.
say?"
She
She was
knew.
on, she knew. And she would go up to him all the time and say, she says, "You see that? That's mine. Don't talk to her inappropriately." My mom was like, I always like, my mom is so aggressive to the minister.
I love
My
the
mom,
warden. I
my
love the
mom was
warden.
like, "Nah." And but the thing is, we came out of that, all of us in the nation. We're still all connected, but I realized I didn't have the full experience because I was super protected by
Yeah.
two people
Can I
when I was
tell
in the
you a
nation. Go
can
ahead.
I tell you a really funny story about the Nation of Islam?
They were strong in Montreal at one point.
Mm.
So, as anyone who lives in NDG will have probably confronted a member of the Nation of Islam outside of Vendome Metro,
Yes.
Yes,
and
heavy presence, heavy.
yeah, they always want to present you with the final call
No call.
newspaper. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was my husband, who I've mentioned on the show before, Big D. He is a white man from Chicago, from the a northern suburb of Chicago. And when we were dating, we walked to the metro together, and we were obviously a couple. And there was a Nation of Islam member that was standing in front of the entrance with, who was handing out final call newspapers. And he just literally stood there. He saw us and he hid the papers behind his back and he just stared with a look of judgment and disapproval
Oh
at me.
God.
And so my husband, boyfriend at the time, says to me, I'm really offended that he didn't give me a Final Call newspaper.
Oh my God. I love him.
And I was like, he didn't give you one. He didn't give me one. They always give me one. What's up with that? Anyway,
No.
just thought that was pretty funny.
But it's funny, the nation gets a bad rap, but there's a lot of things that I took away from the nation. A lot of my community organization skills come straight out of the nation, right? Like that's the part that attracted me. So that's why I watch the cult. I'm fascinated because what attracted me at 15 was I come from a family that's very pro community, going back from Black Panthers, Africville and stuff. And the nation had given me the tools to learn how to deal with my community. And so I was sifting between the good and the bad. Like I was like, blue eyed devils, that's great for them, but I have things to do. So I was always discerning. I was always discerning. And then, I had a tower behind me watching if anybody was trying to abuse me. But when I think about today, a lot of my community beliefs, a lot of how I see the Black community, how I see our people, a lot of that stems from the nation, how I organize, how I see things. Because Minister Farrakhan said something. He said, Black people have a sickness because we do some crazy things, but do you not take care of your people even when they're sick? You got to see past people's illness. And I
Yeah.
remember that quote, and I said to myself, yeah, I need to hold on to something. Because sometimes when you're doing community organizing, you're like, yo, what are you doing? And so I realized, yeah, maybe I was in a bit of a cult, but I liked it and I survived, which is horrible to say, but I'm really fascinated with cults and they always come down to a leader.
Yeah.
It always comes, in my case, it was my cousin. I trusted my cousin, but I wasn't really like tripping over Minister Farrakhan. Please, nobody like, don't tap my wires or my phones and stuff. But for me, it was always my cousin's passion and he became a minister. And I was always like, this is somebody I trust, I grew up with.
He's still in
So I
the
was,
nation today?
unfortunately, my cousin passed 2 years ago. Yeah,
Oh,
unfortunately,
rest in
but
peace.
a devotee to Islam. And another shout out today, I have to give my deep shout out to our brother George Floyd, who passed away 2 years ago today too. It's very deep for me. I feel it very deeply on those levels, and that's how I became like a really big community activist. Was because so I had like I don't know some positive cult experiences, but it always doesn't turn out this way. Charismatic, charisma. I wonder if there's studies about charisma and mental health. Because one thing all these cult leaders have in common, they're extremely charismatic and they need some therapy.
Oh my
The two,
god.
oh
Most
my God.
narcissists do, right?
Yeah.
They are able to have this like very acute balance between hiding some of their mental health issues, but also being
Yeah.
able to be attractive and funny and charming for their followers.
Let's talk about Jim motherfucking Jones.
Not to be confused with the diplomats, Jim Jones.
No,
No.
no, not the rapper. I
Ballin'.
like him. Jim Jones is this character. So when I first watched the documentary, I was like, this is a dude that was really cool. He's in the 60s, he's promoting racial equality. He said it like things aren't going to happen unless everybody comes. If you look at the footage of their congregations, they're interracial. Everything is chilling. Jim Jones is the first white couple with his wife to adopt a Black child in the 60s. They're cool. Yo, then the man wants to start doing crazy shit. I don't know what happened. Jim Jones started coming in with new things, moving them to Guyana, and he started to get increasingly more delusional. It's like they couldn't keep their things in wrap. And that one affects me a lot because there's a lot of footage on it, and you just
Hmm.
see the bodies and the bodies. And this documentary I watch is actually from the point of view of Jim Jones' surviving son, Jim Jones Jr. And he actually sent his wife back to Jonestown pregnant. and not realizing he was sending his wife to her deathbed.
Oh
Yeah, and I was like,
no.
you actually hear the
Oh,
footage. So my question was, how did we go from we are the world, love everybody, black and white to I need to sleep with chicks and kill everybody? Like,
I th- I
what the
think there's a
hell?
lot of similarities there between those types of leaders and people who become billionaires. When you're really
Interesting.
inundated with power and authority and lots of money, it gets to your head and it
Yeah.
magnifies the flaws in you that already existed. And it seems to me that the key thing here that Jim Jones did was he isolated his flock. He
Yeah,
isolated them. He sent them to a place where there would be no political intervention or anything like that. And it seems like he just, the power got to his head. He enjoyed the control he had over people. And it leads to abuse, and it leads to, treating people inappropriately. It's,
it's
it's so
that
sad.
one. I don't know why that one gets to me the most. There are others, okay? Let's not even get into the last one I just finished was The Family with Manson. Again,
Uh,
another one that started off as free love, give your body freely. Everybody was having big orgies, chilling. And in the beginning, when you watch the beginning of the documentary, you're like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Then homeboy wants to be a star. He's in LA. He gets rejected by a record producer. He starts killing them. And like, but the worst part is, Oz, he has like the way the survivors described it was you should be free. And then he changed the message to think is to not be free. You should just be and listen. And I thought, how do you get people to go against their natural instincts and commit murders? The Tate LaBlanca murders, they stabbed them a number of times. In my mind, like, does something click off in your brain
Yeah.
and you're just doing it? Because I've never been at the point where I just do something because, right?
Well,
It's
I
it's
think
it's
this is
fascinating.
there's a real parallel here between cult leaders, abusive partners,
Oh yeah, gaslighters.
because and even like gang leaders of gangs and mafia and mob, like it's all very similar characteristics in that, you know, at first it's acceptance, it's love, it's unconditional, and then it's isolation, and then it's just a complete mind fuck, like you're saying, Nisha, a complete mind fuck, which really turns you into like forget your morals, forget values, everything. It's almost like a reset. It's brainwashing, and that's exactly what it
I have to
is.
agree with you. There is that number one desire that humans have, which is to belong. It is the number one driving desire. And, because, for Manson, when he got arrested, yo, he had girls coming down to the jail singing, putting X's in their forehead. Yo, he's in jail. But it just goes to show that even the removal of the physical presence of the leader, they
Still
were
has an impact.
still following. And I thought, whoa, I ain't killing nobody for nobody. I don't care. I ain't killing nobody.
But I think this is a huge problem with our society in general. Think about it. We send our kids to college and, give them this ideal of joining fraternities and sororities and
Hmm.
having
Hmm.
an acceptance or being a part of an alliance of some sort, or and those, even just at the very beginning when you're becoming, an adult, as a young adult, you're taught that belonging to something brings value, your network, and so look at the things that they do to get into those fraternities and sororities.
Absolutely. The hazing. And I would say they're cult-like behavior.
It's
Yeah, they
absolutely
definitely
cults.
are. Yeah.
Definitely a cult, I
Yeah.
mean, and this is just ingrained in our society. So where does that line get blurred, right? Like when you're a part of something where you feel like the life coaching, like NXIVM, or even these multi-level marketing schemes and these companies, that's very cult like too. If you're
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
selling Amway or whatever, you're a part of a
Vector
bigger.
knives.
Yes, all
Right.
of it,
Right.
girl.
Vector. Oh my God.
Vector
But you're
knives,
right.
baby.
There is something about the manipulation of cult-like behaviors that run wild in our society. Like whenever you
Right.
join a company, right? Like I'm at a school that I love, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what's the cult-like behaviors in some of the things that I'm a part of, right? Because they have to buy you in, right? You got to
Mm-hmm.
buy in. I love my school colors. I'm proud of my school. All of that could be
It's an
deduced,
investment.
yeah, down to like that. But I think cults take it to, they exploit that sense of
Ex-
belonging.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And so let me tell you about another one that I know, Mar, you want me to swear to be the recovering Nisha. That fucking disgust me. It fucking disgust me. When I saw it, Jim Jones made me disgusted on a violence level. Like the mass killing, but there's one cult, like I was like, dude, you need to burn. You need to burn, burn, burn. So I'll tell you their name. I recently watched this one. They were called the Yahweh Nation. And
Oh, I feel like I've read about them.
African American guy called the Yahweh bin Yahweh.
Mm,
Again,
yep,
what did he
yep, yep.
do? He took Black empowerment, elements from Islam, and put them together to poof, to turn into like it's okay to be a pedophile and it's okay to have. I was like, bro,
Ah.
like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And the worst thing is, they capitalize on the vulnerability of the state of Black people in the Black community at that time. He's not the only one. There's another one. They have a long name.
Oh.
It's called the Nubian Nation of Moors. And they took pedophilia to a whole new level where they actually moved out of New York, went down to Atlanta, created like Egypt land, and people who were born into the cult were actually being sexually abused by the leader. Like
Oh.
it was just, and the thing is, the sexual abuse ones, those are the ones that bother me the most, because sexual abuse is something that people live with forever, right? Unless they die. And
Yeah.
so I think one of them, so by the way, just to follow up on Manson, Manson died of natural causes just recently
Wait, he
because
died?
yeah,
Really?
2017. I'm telling you, you got to watch these cult shows.
Huh.
2017 of natural
Rest in
causes.
piss.
Yeah, natural causes on top of it because
Wasn't
the
very
year
Christian of
Manson
me.
was, it's okay. Because
You're allowed.
the year he got convicted, California abolished their death penalty. So he
Hmm.
managed to skip out. And I was like, he got to live until his 80s. Like, how is that fair? But
God,
anyways,
life is so
And
unfair.
still
Don't even
wasn't
get me started with that.
remorseful. He wasn't
no,
remorseful at
Never.
all.
not at
Never.
all. At all.
Never. So
And
listen so listen
musician
to
gone
this.
wrong.
We talk about working out and stuff, and I feel like the yogi lifestyle is very much cult like in a sense. But I have a great example of this. I don't know if you guys have ever done Bikram yoga.
I
Yes.
think I have, yes. Yes.
So
A few times.
Bikram set up this whole like hot yoga with like I don't know how many poses. It's a very ritualistic, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
yoga, whatever it's called, workout, whatever session. I don't know. 90 minutes or I think 75 or 90 minutes of whatever. I used to do it fairly regularly. And then all of a sudden the shit came out how this guy Bikram was sexually abusing the trainers and the people he was bringing into his he would hold like these seminars or conferences to teach and certify yoga instructors to be Bikram certified, and he sexually abused so many of the female yoga instructors.
Uh,
And he created this sense of like, and this was one of those things where you create a sense of, oh, here is this elite community, you
Yeah.
have to be certified directly from Bikram in order to be able to teach this special unique form of yoga. And then boom, look what happens.
Hmm.
Sorry.
No, that's my
Sorry.
girl. That's my girl. I'm scared of her, but
The
that's
hype
my girl.
girls.
The hype girls. But you know what? I just want to say that there isn't just male cult leaders, there are female cult leaders. But female cult leaders are interesting as fuck. They don't do the sexual abuse, they just straight out fucking violent. Straight out violent. So there,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's one called Army of God.
What?
Again, Army
Sounds
of
like Wu
God,
Tang.
right? Do. Right. So in the beginning, they're cool. They're hippies, just hippies, chilling, building utopian Christian life. And then what was her name before? Lila Green. She starts to get more militant, and she starts getting on this family about disciplining their children. Then she gets a revelation from God that her name should be changed to Deborah. So, biblical reference for those people who don't know, Deborah was one of the judges
She was a judge,
in
yeah.
she's a judge in the Old Testament. So now she starts to judge people, and she starts judging families on how harsh they treat their children. She ends up, oh, encouraging this lovely man who's very tender-hearted to beat his two sons to death.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
To death?
to death.
What?
And they don't beat them in the normal places. They beat them in the groin.
I can't do it.
Oh,
I don't
Yeah.
want
oh
to talk
my
about it.
Yeah.
goodness.
Let's not
And
discuss the
and
details.
yeah, I was like, so they're the female ones, because she's not the only female cult leader. They tend to be violent, as opposed to the males who want to be sexually gratified and like, oh, I'm a prophet, and then. But there is an exception. There's Heaven's Gate. Heaven Gates is a more recent cult that I think all of us know about because we were
Oh
about
my god, yeah.
19,
With
right?
the mass suicide. Oh,
Side where because they were going on a spaceship and all this going
Oh,
to the new planet. They were actually celibates. They actually practice home castration.
wait, I'm not
oh
familiar.
Lord.
I'm not
You're
familiar
not
Oh,
with
familiar
this
with
okay.
group.
Heaven's Gate?
So
No.
Ooh,
Heaven's
this is a
Gate
big
are
one.
they're special because they're the first ones to make a website. And so they're considered a cyber cult. And so what they believe, so there were a couple, Doe and T. I don't know about their names, but Doe and T, they were a couple and they really believe, so they married Christianity with UFOs, which for folks who are listening is not out of the norm. If you watch Ancient Aliens always questions some of the things that are in our world and whether they were built by aliens or not, like the pyramids and so forth. So this is not out of the norm, but they marry the belief of UFOs and Christianity, and people come, they have a flock, but they don't want to engage in any deviant behavior, which I was like, okay. So I'm watching, like, okay, so we got no sex, no violence, we're okay so far. So what's their issue? The problem was T, the wife, dies. And they have this whole thing about letting go of attachments, but Doe is not able. And he starts to become more erratic. They make a website and they actually start recruiting. In his grief, he becomes even more erratic and
Mhm.
starts telling the male members that, are you having impure thoughts? And they're like, yeah, we are. And he's like, well, perhaps we should be castrated. And they
He
all,
turned them
some,
to eunuchs?
including himself. So whatever he did
Oh,
himself as well.
oh my gosh.
Eventually, the survivors said that they think he was so engulfed in grief that he told them the next. So there was a comet coming. Haley comet was coming, and he told them that was their doorway to heaven. And
Uh,
they ate
he gave them
pudding
some
that was
Kool-Aid.
no pudding.
They
This time it
they
was
had
pudding.
with applesauce, I think. They had
Yeah,
applesauce with phenobarbital mixed in it.
which makes you go to sleep.
And this was
1997.
1997, Mar. So, and
Ooh,
42 people, they rented a mansion in Southern California, and 42 people were taken out of there in body bags.
Yeah,
wow.
it was the biggest mass suicide on US ground land. I'm telling you
Wow.
this, but again, it goes back to this question. What, like, what are you thinking in those moments? Like, is there not something in your brain that's saying, I don't want to drink this drink. I don't want to eat this pudding.
Well, I
But
think I think it speaks to the emotional and psychological health of the members who are worshiping these leaders, right? If you grow up in an environment where you're always talked down to and you are not raised with the ability, or you're not raised to develop skills, or the belief that you are a strong person, you're always
Yeah.
going to see somebody else as your strength instead of yourself. And I think that if you grow up with a very weak, spiritual, psychological, emotional upbringing, and no one teaches you these things, if you've been sheltered and you're not exposed to the flaws that humans, exhibit from time to time, it's hard. It's hard if you're not really that educated or don't really have the life experience to, to be able to discern between someone who's hurting you, someone who has the potential to hurt you, and someone who really is an advocate for you without hurting you, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is where the issue comes in. It's just, you probably are, and I'm not saying this in like a demeaning way, you probably are a weak person and you need to get stronger so that you
Yeah,
will
for
not
sure.
be hoodwinked into the sort of stuff. Because there's no way that you can convince me to drink some Kool-Aid with some cyanide in it.
That's what
There's
I'm
just no way.
saying. Like,
But listen,
but
at that point, Mar, these people have already accepted that there is, the aliens that there's a higher life form out there,
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
and it gets to the point where he was telling them, we're just going to leave your physical body behind and we're all going somewhere together. And
No,
I
sir.
know it sounds crazy at that point to us now, but that's already been years of brainwashing and
yeah,
with a bunch of
Yeah.
people who probably didn't have, and they had isolated their friends and family at that point.
Yeah.
So normal was what was happening within those walls.
And that's what
That's
I mean.
all.
yeah,
If you have not been taught how to be a part of a community, or have a community that doesn't impose any sort of violence or abuse on you, you're not going to be able to recognize those signs. And I think the signs are really telling as to whether you can trust somebody as a leader or not. I mean, and this is why I don't really place faith in leaders. Like, I have a
yeah,
community of faith, I have a pastor, but I don't go around worshiping people. I will never ever be the kind of person who's like committing myself to a political party or a political leader or even a community leader, because we're human, we're flawed, we have brokenness in ourselves,
yeah,
and until those things are addressed, or we are comfortable accepting that we are broken people and we're working through our crap as we get older, it's going to be difficult to, you know I just personally cannot fathom the idea of worshiping someone so much that I can't see myself getting out of the group, or saying
yeah,
no to acts that go against my personal morals
yeah.
and beliefs. But
But
that's
remember
just
what
me, right?
yeah, remember what I said though. Another word for cult is sex, right? Not sex, sect. So,
Sex.
yeah, sex. So let's be honest, right? Like, there are some positive groups out there
Yeah.
that people would define as cults that aren't. Like, look at us. We've been friends forever. People would define we're a cult. We ride for each other. I don't care. I'm happy to be
There's
part of
good
that
and bad
cult.
and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's some really cool groups out there that people would maybe look at cults or jokes. But for example, let me give you something funny so we can lighten up the mood, because nobody wants to talk about messy truth and cults and the crazy shit these people did. But there's Pastafarians, right? So Pastafarians, I shouldn't laugh. Pastafarians all started off with a joke. Well, from what my knowledge and reading is, the guy wanted to wear, what's that? Is it called a scandal? Like, where you rinse out your pasta, and he wanted to wear it in his license. Of course, a fucking Canadian. Like, what are we doing, Canadians? But anyways, he goes to get his license. He wants to wear a pasta rinser on his head, and they're like, no. And he's like, this is my legitimate headwear,
Wait, so he put
because
the colander on his
colander,
head?
yeah, on his head in his picture, and he said, I am a legitimate pastafarian, and this sparks off
Yo,
shit.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm so
So
done. I'm done.
Pastafarians, listen, as I make my kids research these religions all the time. So they believe in the flying spaghetti monster, and they believe in pirates, and they have holidays like Pirate Day where you
Yar.
dress up as pirates. Yeah. They also
National Pirate
believe
Day.
National Pirate Day. They have a full like calendar, full website, and yeah, they're Pastafarians living their
They're
best life.
taking the
They
piss.
they have a whole origin story. When I asked my students to research this, one wrote back to me, it's like, Miss, you can't be serious. I said, listen, just research it. And they're like, OMG. They have full beliefs, full costumes, deity, so forth. They even have an image of the, spaghetti flying monster and what they'll do to them. So that's just a fun fact. Another fun fact for you in terms of cults, you have people who are Sufis. I'm a Sufi. So Sufis are people who are part of Islam, but they're a little bit on the mystical side. Some people know them as twirling dervish, dancers in Turkey, but a lot of people would think they're a cult because they don't fall into mainstream Islam. For me, I
Mm-hmm.
just like it because you get to dance it out and spin it out. But I also like it because it's not as okay, I shouldn't say restrictive, but I don't like a lot of boundaries, but I still want to practice. So I find like being a Sufi is a lot more, I'm a lot more mystical than most folks. I like to see
Isn't
things.
isn't that also related to, those books of poetry, Rumi? Isn't
Rumi, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Sufism as well, right? I
Yeah,
love that
exactly.
poetry, by the way. I think it's just magnificent. But
I love
anyway.
it too. But I find like, as I was on a religious journey, I realized that the reason I can't be in a cult too long is because I get tired. I get bored. I want to do something new. I get bored. So I'm like, nah, I have commitment problems when it comes to organized religion. I'm like, I have to do this again? Really?
Guys, you know what? I'm so not religious, and I mean, you guys know that already. I do believe in God, but I mean, I was raised, I don't want to say Muslim, because we definitely have the Muslim beliefs, but clearly I am not very Muslim, if you will.
It's more
But
Iranian culture,
yeah, it's more
Yeah.
Iranian culture that is
Persian culture.
ingrained
Yeah.
with some Islamic stuff. But, you know, I was reading about who is susceptible to cults, and it seems to be people who are going through a really hard time in their lives that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
they're vulnerable at the time that they're joining these cults, and that they um or that they want to better themselves professionally or personally, and it could be, that all of those things are intersecting at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember specifically when my mom was really sick and she was dying, that I was like, well, the way that I'm praying, this is very deep, by the way, so just putting it out there. The way that I'm praying is not really working. Maybe I should start praying to Jesus. No joke. This is something that, like, I was like, maybe I should go to church and convert because my God is clearly not listening to me. And I think that that was a really like vulnerable moment in my life where I considered, what, why is this, this almighty God that I've believed in and I was raised to believe in. And by the way, I've been praying in in Arabic since I was very little, and I have no idea what I'm saying. So think about how
Mm.
crazy that is. I will recite prayers that my mom or my grandma or my grandfather taught me, and I don't even know what I'm saying, but I know when to recite what prayer. I mean, that's how foreign it is to me because I don't even speak
Mm-hmm.
Arabic. I speak Farsi. All that to say, like, I had a moment where I was like, what could I do? What could I believe in that will change, this
Yeah.
tragic thing that's happening in my life? And I say all that to say that that could have been me. Now, I'm not saying that I would have gone to the extreme of, having applesauce that was laced with some fucking
Yeah.
poison, but that could have been me, and it could
That could
happen
be
to
any of
any
Yeah.
and
us.
all of us. And so it's really hard. And there's like, there are therapists for cult recovery. There's a lot of people who get affected by this, and it's wild.
Yeah.
But I am considering converting now again today, guys. But this
To
time
what? We want to know.
to
To what?
the Baha'i religion.
I'm with it.
I
I love them.
They
I
are
love them.
just, I mean, it's all about the good of humanity and getting rid of racial and
Yeah.
class and like all of the prejudices. Like they just, and they give back, bro. They give back. It's a
Hmm.
Yeah.
beautiful religion. And so yeah, I'm just considering it, guys. Just wanted to throw that
I'm
out
with
there.
it. I love Baha'i. Shout out to the Baha'is.
When I was
Mm-hmm.
younger, I actually I was interning at a community newspaper, and one of my first articles I had to write was I was sent to an event. It was actually honoring a former principal of your high school, Nisha. And as it turns out, he was I don't know if he was a member, but I'm assuming he was, because there was kind of like the Baha'i faith community was actually
There.
there and supporting him because he was receiving an award. And I think it was because he had given back to the community, and it was part of his whole like ethos,
Yep.
Yeah.
to give. And so that was my first time encountering the Baha'i faith. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, it's actually pretty good
They're very
foundation. It's
cool.
actually not
They're
So
bad.
very
cool.
cool. They're very cool.
Not for me, but just saying, I
Yeah.
wasn't intimidated by them. It was actually pretty cool learning about them and
So
understanding
cool.
about their community.
So
My
as you
family
can imagine,
doctor, I'm
is
sorry, honey.
Baha'i?
She is
No, go ahead.
Baha'i. Well, my when I was growing up, and I remember I couldn't see him for a month out of the year because he was always somewhere, India,
Mm,
Pakistan, Africa. A month of service, just a month of service
wow.
every year, and I thought, and that was my first, actual encounter with somebody, and that's what I saw. You know what I'm saying? It
Mm-hmm.
was so
Yeah.
cool.
So this is totally in my element I love the religious stuff. That's just, I get excited. But Baha'is very excite me. I love, and it's a very easy transition because of their origin in Iran and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I was like, nah, I guess I rejected it. I was like, I don't believe in the modern day prophets. And
Oh,
the Baha'is have that, right? And
Mm.
not that I don't believe them, I'm always skeptical of anyone who's calling themselves a prophet these days. I'm like, I don't know. I have to check you out a bit. But I've had a long religious, spiritual journey. I grew up in two faiths my whole entire life.
Yeah.
My mom is a Baptist Christian, my dad is a Sunni Muslim, and I have family who are Smiley, which also people would consider a cult or a sect, because cult and sect are interchangeable. So Ismailis they're different. They're also Shiites, but they're different. They do things very different. And I remember, for a long time I've been going to church and mosque a long time. And then eventually I was like, okay, God, we need to sit down and do some fasting because I need to figure out some things. And I realized that in every branch of religion, there's some folks who just take things to a whole new level. And that's where the cults come from. Like Christianity, we have the branch Davidians. We have
You
the
have
the
evangelical pastors who believe that
yeah.
it is their right to have a private jet, you
Oh,
know?
that's a whole other episode of
I
when
mean,
pastors take too much money.
yeah, you also have a former political leader who still has people who are writing for him and claiming that the US election results are not
That's a
real.
cult.
oh,
That
that's
is
That's
definitely
a
a
a cult.
that
cult.
is a cult. Trumpism is a cult.
Yeah. But all that to say that I think you're right, Oz. People are always looking. And
Yeah.
if you're not careful at that time of your highest vulnerability, and you're not careful what you're filtering in, it could be
Detrimental.
disastrous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be disastrous. Because I think about it like when I was joining the nation, I was looking for something that would, so I'm mixed race, and that was my vulnerability. I was looking to
Mhm.
prove how Black I was. That was my vulnerability point, right? Even though I had a Black mom, I was raised by my Black mom. There were people who still looked at me and questioned my Blackness. That was the vulnerability. And I don't think I've had that vulnerability again, because now I'm like, oh, you don't think I'm Black? That's good for you. I'm still riding and dying for my community. Go do what you got to do.
Wait, who doesn't think you're black?
There's a lot of people who don't think I'm Black.
In the
Oh
Nation of
my God.
Islam?
In the world. Yeah, people see, especially since I shaved my head, people see me and they're like, "You look more Indian." I'm like, "That's good for you. Go do your
I
thing."
say they
I
need a
hate that
conversation with the
commentary.
warden.
Just
Oh,
not for
listen.
nothing. Why does it matter what you think I look like,
Yeah,
first of
it's
all?
none of
What
your
is this
business.
commentary? Like, I don't even understand how in 2022 people are even saying things like this anymore. Like,
You
have
should
we
be
not
you'd be
come
surprised.
so far already? Like, just shut the fuck up. How about
Yeah.
that? Just shut the fuck up.
Well, shut the fuck up. I actually have a friend who's part of a cult that I'm really good friends with, super good friends with. And I remember when she first told me about their variation of Christianity, I was like, this is a little bit scary to me. But
Have some Kool-Aid.
no, but I've actually gone to their church. I'm like, because, I'm like checking out for my friend. I need her to have some
Yeah,
lifelines in the
you
outside
trying to
world.
watch out for her.
Yeah, but it's cool. They've been part of it for a very long time. You know, uh, she has a family, raised. So I'm like, okay. So that was actually my first positive introduction to smaller Christian sects because I was like,
Hmm.
this is wild. Like they don't wear pants. They don't do interracial marriages.
I don't wear
Um,
pants either since the
Darn.
pandemic.
I can't
I,
catch a break. First the Nation of Islam and now this? Come
well,
on, man.
it's very
Jeez.
interesting to me their interpretation of things, but I have to say there she maintains relationships with the outside world. So I'm always like, okay,
For
okay, we
now.
got no, we've been friends
Just kidding.
for
Kidding.
yeah. But all that to say, I don't think cults are bad. I think people are bad. I
Yeah,
think
you're
People are
people
right.
do
bad
bad
everywhere.
things.
People
People
are
are
bad
Yeah,
in
bad. They
cults,
are.
in organized religion, in positions of leadership, as
Business,
CEOs,
politics. Yep.
you know,
People are
as people,
broken.
as Tesla owners, the whole fucking.
They need fixing.
but then I thought something I was thinking about, like, who's to say we're not in a big cult? We're not in the biggest cult in the world, which is this society.
Yeah.
We buy into the value system. We buy into the shit. Like now we're starting to question things, but who's to say that we haven't been in the biggest bamboozlement of our lives, which I would call white supremacy? So who's to say
Oh,
that we haven't
1000%.
been in this big ass cult for years and years and years, and we're now starting to recover and things are starting to fall apart, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just know that for me, I think I have a little bit of a shield because I don't like to do things and I don't like to join things. I'm always like, I need some freedom. Oh, I can come when
Yeah.
I want? Okay. Okay, I'll come. But the moment you start obligating me, there's a part
Yeah.
of me that I'm like, I'm not interested.
I am very much like you. Do not tell me I have to do something. You need to explain to me what it is that you want me to do and why it will be beneficial for each of us. Who am I helping?
Exactly.
Am I helping you or am I helping a greater community? I think getting down to those details helps me understand things better. But it's when you get into that very fundamentalist, like, thou shall not do this and thou shall not do that. And it's like, this is why I really like, and I'm saying this from a person who, identifies as a Christian, why I think, like, the New Testament is great because it's not throwing out all of the old, but it's creating a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at things.
Yeah.
It's not all about these laws and all this, doctrination. It's more about
Love
what
your neighbor
kind of
as you love yourself.
relationships. Yes, who do you
Yeah,
love your neighbors, love your families, love people who are unlovable. It's really difficult
exactly.
to do that, but we're all entitled to love, and that's,
And
but
that's something
don't
I
tell
can
me to
do.
drink no Kool-Aid, bro. It's
No.
not
No,
happening.
or give my body free leave.
No, no,
No.
no, my
I
body
think
is my body.
my whole thing is I have such a like resistance to elitism, if you will. I
Mm,
can't stand the idea of elitism. And because of that, like these groups where it's like, oh, you can't sit with us unless you're da 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 da, that idea of belonging is just such a turnoff for me, that I think this was also one of the issues that I have with the music industry. Like, there is such a sense of
Yeah.
elitism in the entertainment world, and I hate that so much. It's one of those things that I constantly speak to my kids about. Like, nobody is
I'm with
better
it.
than the next person, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and that idea of having to be like somebody else to be accepted, just dead that shit off the bat. Like, that's just a
I
Yeah.
recipe for
agree.
disaster.
I think the three of us are just rebellious. I think that's just what it is. We're just
My
like,
the pastor of my community of faith, he always says something really, really helpful to new members who come to church on Sundays. And he always says, this is a place where you can belong before you believe. You don't have to
mm,
measure up to a certain level or be of a certain persuasion or reach these certain that elitism you're talking about, Oz.
Mhm.
You don't need to be there in order to believe and be part of a community. You can get help, you can talk to us. This is not an elite club, you know what I mean? And I
yeah.
really appreciate that.
Actually, I've had some really
Yeah.
good times at your church. But again,
Yeah.
to me, it's the whole, oh, I have to go every Sunday. I'm so bad at this. I'm because
You
you know
don't
what
have to
it
go every Sunday, you
I
don't.
think you know what it is? The fact that Monday to Friday I'm obligated to my school, I think that's the only cult in the business that I'm like, okay, I have to go, right? But
Yeah.
everything else, I realize through a lot of work that I value freedom the most,
Mm-hmm.
and freedom to worship, freedom to build my own relationship with my own deity in my own way. It's a maximum value for me. And I didn't know this for a long time because, I've gone through, I mean, I love church. I love going to church. I hate singing. Oh God, I hate singing. But I love singing outside of church. So I was
Yeah.
trying to think, I was like, yo, God, what are you doing? Like, how come I'm so weird like this? And that makes you open to cults, right? Because you're like, well, if you come with us, then we'll let you not sing. And I'm like,
You
oh,
don't have to sing
okay.
here.
But
Yeah.
these are the things. Like I'm a very, and I say this respectfully to myself, I'm a deviant thinker. I think very differently than a lot of people in the religious realm. And so I had to find something that allowed me to be super free and super worshiping. And the two aren't incongruent. And a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that. Like I admire Mar and her husband so much in their commitment to Christ. I admire my husband's commitment, like homeboy be out there doing his
Don't
praying.
admire us too much because
No,
we got
no.
some problems over.
No, but I mean, I admire some of my friends who are like, I would consider super devotee. I admire, but I realize I'm super devotee in my own way, and I can't be any other way. That's why I'm not
Yeah,
cult worthy. So if you come in for me, cults, I'm not the one because I'm just
yeah.
rebellious. I can't
I might be
follow
the
what
one.
you want. No, we wouldn't
Beliefs
let you.
are your beliefs are really between you and whatever higher
Yeah.
power it is that you choose, and this is why I'm like you, Nisha. I'm an introvert. I don't want to be around people sometimes. And there are times where I'm just like, I don't feel like going to church. Thank God for the pandemic, because during the pandemic there was live streaming. Do you know how awesome that is for an introvert? It's
Oh, I
great. You don't have to
can't.
be around anybody. You can just turn on your laptop or your computer and just watch a service or sermons,
And
and not
and
just
go to
on
shower
Sunday.
and
You can go any day of the week. You can see this any day of the week. It's great. And you don't have to do small
you
talk
know
with people. It's wonderful.
you're making me wonder, Mar, if I'm a religious introvert. I only like to be with me and God. I'm like, nah, I don't want to be with
I
anybody.
am a religious introvert. That is
I might be
exactly who I
too. I
am.
might be too, because I don't want to talk to people. This is why I won't work in a cult either, unless I'm in one. Like, I don't want to talk to people. I just want to be like, I just want to figure things out, have my own conversations, have my, you know, this is
Have
what I
more
really enjoy. Yeah,
intimacy with your God. Yeah. But
this is why I
on
like
that
Sufism.
on that subject, let's get to some of the other top cults
Cults?
that
Oh
yeah
God.
that
Okay,
we're.
okay, okay, okay. I thought we were trying to go in a positive direction. You're bringing us
Yeah,
right
she
back into
sucked
the
us right
culties.
back in there.
Sorry, but
Okay,
I'm
so
really
by the way,
fascinated. I'm learning.
Oh,
what not to do.
okay. So, by the way, there are still active cults that exist, and one of them is a cult we all know. I don't know if I would call them a cult, but anyways, this Church of Scientology is considered a
Oh,
cult.
is it
And
really
it,
considered a
yeah,
cult?
it's considered a cult, and it's very, very active. By the way, there's something about California. They have the most active cults in the United States. I don't know what that's about.
It's the
And
association with the actors and actresses of that community. That's what it is. And it's
mm,
also a nice financial arm to support their
their
organization.
cult stuff.
Yeah.
That's true. So we know the People's Temple, that was with Jim Jones, which
Hmm.
that dude, like, I hope you're in hell. I'm sorry, but I
I just
do.
want to point out that I have some good Scientology friends. I do. I have some really good
Yeah.
friends in my life that are Scientologists and people who I admire and I love that are Scientologists. And I guess
Yep.
that just means you can really separate people from their
As long
beliefs,
as
if
they
you
don't,
will.
Yeah. That's what we said. There's good and bad in everything, right?
exactly. There are actively over 3,000 cults right now.
Hmm. You can
Some
have
of
really amazing people involved in those cults. They're good
absolutely.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was one called the Tony Almado Ministries, and this was a couple, Tony and Susan. They founded a Christian cult that again starts out great. They want to have a better society. And then something happens, and in this case Susan dies of cancer. And Tony told all his believers that she's coming back, but she doesn't. And so Tony, in grief, narcissism, mental health, starts to take multiple child brides.
Oh
And
no.
yeah,
Oh
Oh,
this doesn't end up
no.
well.
no.
Female cult, Word of Life. So it actually starts out with Jerry Irwin, but he passes and his daughter Tiffany takes over. And she too, remember I told you the female cult leaders, they like to do some violence. And it also ends up in the death of a teenager.
Oh no.
I know. Let's see. Let's go to season 2 because I'm in season 2 now of my cult show. Oh, I'm just about to watch The Sinful Messiah. I'm not even ready for this. Let's talk about a cult that still exists today and has not been fully accountable for their crimes. They're called Children of God. Today,
Oh,
they would be called
yes.
the Family Ministries, and they
Hmm.
were under David Berg.
Hmm.
And it's all about free love and we are the world, and turns into these totally fucking ridiculous kid prison camps. So, what happened in Children of God? It starts off like we are the world or a commune, we live together. People start bringing their children. That's another target, right? Single mothers, a big
Yeah.
target
Mm.
for cults, right? Because they
With
can help take care
problematic
of your
kids.
children,
Teens
Hmm.
of
right?
Teens for Christ was their original name.
Yeah, and then it became Children of God. Now it's called the International Family. They would take their passports. They would what's the word I'm looking for? Like it detach you from your parents. Like parents, you don't, your children don't belong to you, vice versa. But then the kids would be sent to these camps. Children of God was massive. This was a massive cult. They were in Japan, the Philippines, the United States, all over, and they in Thailand, and they would send them and they would teach, they would discipline those children. Like they would be fasting for hours, isolation for 23 hours,
Mm.
and they were made to confess over and over and over. The thing that killed me was, yo, they still exist. People are still following them today. I was like,
And this is
yo,
across mostly Asian countries.
Guys,
yes,
no, not necessarily. Listen, River Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix, and
yes,
Rain Phoenix were part of the group. And River
Oh.
they
Phoenix
left.
actually, and he told Details magazine in November in 1991 before he died, they're ruining people's lives, like
Yeah.
basically.
Mm.
He did an overdose because he couldn't cope and he left. His parents joined originally. He left and whatever he like apparently he was having sex at the age of 4. because
Oh,
the
that's
message was
sick.
sex is not sinful.
Yeah.
But my question, I was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. Like, how does a 4-year-old, can a 4-year-old get an erection? I was
Yeah, they can.
like,
But
Uh,
the the point, I mean, they actually used sex in order to recruit a lot of people
yeah.
too.
So they would pimp
So,
out the
mm,
girls. They
mhm,
pimp out, but actually, Children of God ends up really crazy because one of the members actually ends up killing because of his abuse, and then Phoenix River or River Phoenix actually dies of an overdose because of,
mhm.
well, they
it's too much
allotted to what
trauma.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
So,
And
still in existence today?
yes,
yeah,
Ooh,
they're
and
an
oh
active
my
cult.
gosh.
Berg was actually accused of sexually abusing his own daughters and granddaughters.
Yeah. So the
Oh.
one I'm going to watch, there's three more that I'm going to watch after we finish today. One is called The Sinful Messiah. I have no idea what's going to happen in this one. The
Mm-mm.
Movement of God and The Word of Faith. So we're going to
Wow.
see what happens. But my thing is I get so mad at these things cuz I'm like people genuinely come because they're genuinely searching.
They're seeking, yeah.
Yeah, they're genuinely seeking, and my heart goes out because I'm thinking like these are folks that really just were desperate to belong, to believe in something.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who's also probably pretty much mentally ill, but is passing like a sociopath,
Yeah.
like literally steals their life, steals it. And this all boils down to, is the cult bad? It's not. This is about mental health and how if we continue not to make it visible, these are the things that happen. A lot of these stem from mental health issues. You know, they what's the word I'm looking for? They camouflage themselves as
Mm-hmm.
normal folks wanting to do the right thing. And when
Yeah.
you really go beyond that, these are like, look at Ted Bundy. These are people who functioned in the world you would have never known, and they're hiding. They're like
Mm-hmm.
little predators, and people who are willing and open, who have big lights, who are vulnerable. Like I listen to these parents talk about their children. These are people who just want to make the world a better place, become prey to folks that I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't
But you
know.
know what the scariest part of it all is, Nisha, is that there's no cure or
No,
treatment for sociopaths or psychopaths. There's none.
no.
And that's the scariest part. It's almost like the devil amongst us in these people, and like the just atrocities that they're capable of. It's just,
Committing, yeah.
what do you do? And I don't think locking him up is enough, to be
I
honest with
know.
you.
I don't
So,
even know.
what are the biggest signs that we need to look for with regard
Oh,
to
okay. Let me see.
joining these things? How do we like not drink the Kool-Aid? How do we know it's time to get out or just not even follow this person?
Okay,
I mean,
let's see.
I
So it
think we
says
have
that
to go with our gut, no?
and also says if the group is focused on a living leader who is requiring unquestioning commitment
Yeah.
and
Instead of
questioning
saying
doubt. Yeah.
instead of saying, "Hey, you know what? If I can't help you, go to God. Have a direct conversation with him or whatever.
So here's some
Yeah.
interesting characteristics of a cult member. They usually are well educated, but have a weak spiritual background, have high financial success, but sometimes can be younger and have few time constraints, right? So they got no family. And so there's something there about like they have time and they're young and they're successful. And then there's something called seven signs that you're in a cult. Oh gosh. So there's opposing critical thinking,
Mm-hmm.
which,
That's the
yeah, see,
Mm,
first
I'd be
thing.
out. I'd be out. I'd be like,
it's a good sign. Yep.
I'd be like, okay, we gotta go.
Yep.
Isolating members and penalizing them for leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I have my mother. We're good. So if you can't let me see her, she's coming.
Okay.
Emphasizing special doctrines outside of scriptures. That's the weak spiritual background, right? So if you don't know and then you're not questioning. Dishonoring the family unit. Yeah, wow. See, Ozzy, you'd be good, because the moment they tell you you can't see your animals and your kids, you'd be like, fuck
I'm out.
that.
But there's
Yeah,
other things to look out for too. Like, are you like something called othering, where are
yeah,
your friends like different than you, and has that changed over time? Like, do you start feeling different from the people who you used to be the closest to? And like, you know, if someone asks you a question about this group, are you being evasive, and do you feel awkward answering it? Like,
yeah,
that might be a sign that, hey, there's something's wrong if I don't feel comfortable even talking about it. And
yeah,
then cognitive dissonance. This is a big one. If shit that you're hearing doesn't really line up with what you believe to be true, and you're like, oh, no, maybe I should look at it this way. No, don't look at it that way. Run,
yeah.
bitch, run. Get your shit and
Run, bitch,
go.
run. Yeah,
That could be in a relationship. You could be with a
Oh my
toxic
God.
boyfriend or girlfriend who's gaslighting you
Same
and
shit.
saying, no,
yeah.
that's
Same
not
shit.
right.
We gotta go.
Same shit.
When
You
I
gotta
tell
go.
you this is what it is. It's like, no, I'm
You gotta go.
pretty
You
sure
gotta
that's
go.
not what it is.
The
Right.
question is, how do you get out? And I would say, please maintain one person on the outside.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
and you can, when I was listening to the survivors, they were saying like their number one concern was like they were told they wouldn't survive on the outside. You know,
Or
that's what
go
they
to
were
church.
told.
Go to Mars Church. You'll belong even before you have
You
to.
Before
belong.
you believe. Yeah.
Before you believe.
Exactly.
Just go.
And
Just
you're
go
allowed to
somewhere.
maintain friends outside. It's not.
Yeah.
They're not gonna cut you off, baby.
The isolation part, I think, is big for me. When you try to isolate me and cut me off, I already isolate myself as an
Yeah, I don't need
I don't
any
need
help.
extra help with that.
I don't need anybody to help me isolate anymore. I have a select group of people that I like in my life, and I'd like to keep it that way. I'm open to
Yep.
new relationships, but bam, yeah, you got to earn that role.
That means, Oz, that we are in the cult of Mar.
We are
Because
the circle.
we are in the cult of Mar, because we are in that selective group, I
We're
hope.
still here.
I'm not
Yeah.
isolating anyone.
No,
I love
so we're
animals
20.
and children and people.
Oh my
There
God,
you
we're 20 years deep in that cult. Shit.
20. Crazy.
But all jokes aside, I think at the end of the day, just believe that, you know, you have a place to belong, and belonging shouldn't be painful or
Yeah.
sexual
Or
or
judgmental.
taking all your money,
Yeah.
you know?
No.
And cults don't have to be religious. Like Oz was mentioning, right? There's that self-development. There are people who get, you know, yoga cults. You know, they're like, we haven't even started on East Asian sort of cults, you know, in India following gurus and things like that. So, you know, like anytime you're obsessing or no, just take a moment. Take a moment. And not that we're called experts. I like the religious knowledge, but to me, I think the number one thing you can do for yourself is think for yourself. And trust me,
Right.
your brain
Yeah.
your gut will always tell you what's
Yeah.
happening.
That's why I really like that song, Cult of Personality from Living Color.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The
you
lyrics
too.
just
But
say it all.
honestly, though, if there was a Jodeci cult, I would join. I just want you to know.
Oh, we already know. You'd be the leader.
There's no
You'd
hope.
be the leader.
Yes.
But
My
I'm
God.
part of the
This
Prince
is such
cult.
a good idea. There you
does
go.
that mean I'm in a Jill Scott cult?
Oh, you are. The Jill
you are the
Scott.
cult leader of the Jill Scott
Ah,
cult.
okay.
You are
That's
the
true.
leader
It
of the
is a
Jill Scott
commitment.
cult.
It is a commitment that I
Such a
don't
commitment.
break.
Yes.
Yeah, that
You
is a commitment. But
isolate
I'm
other artists. You get rid of Erica
so
Badu
true.
for so many
Seriously.
years. My
What's wrong
goodness.
That's
with
true.
you? All
It's
right.
true.
All right.
But I don't encourage other people to get rid of them. I just
Do it yourself.
yeah,
All right,
actually
Guys,
that's true.
this has been messy, so I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us as always. And please share with your friends if you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes. And drop us a little comment. Show us some love on IG. You know, give us some reviews and rate our show on Apple, on Spotify. We really appreciate all the feedback that we can get right
Absolutely.
now.
Until next time, folks.
Woo!
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Be free. Be free.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.